Hello everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to bring you guys my top 5 favorite books of April. It's more like my top 7 books because for a couple of the slots on this list I had to include 2 books because they're from the same series and I just couldn't pick between the 2 of them. So in April I read a total of 25 books, just like in March, and while I would have liked to have read more books in general, I still read some pretty amazing things, and I'm just really excited to share with you guys my top favorites of the month. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into it. I think I'm gonna kind of go in the order that I read them in April. So the first book is probably gonna be no surprise to any of you because I feel like I've been raving about this book so much on my channel lately. That is When She Said I Do by Celeste Bradley. I've said it once and I'll say it again, the Worthingtons are like the Bridgertons on steroids. There's like 10 siblings and they're all just crazy. Like there's just a lot going on in this family. And this is just an awesome Beauty and the Beast retelling in a historical setting. I am trash for those. So I'm not gonna delve too deeply into the plot of this book just because I've talked about these books, well, most of these books a lot on my channel already as it is. But basically, Calliope and her family are taking refuge in what they believe to be an abandoned mansion. Lo and behold, it's Ren's mansion. Ren is our hero. He is heavily scarred. So now he just lives as a recluse. And so he comes upon Calliope when she's like going through his things, and they end up in a compromising position, and so then they end up getting married, you know, having a marriage of convenience. And one of the things that I just adored about this book is how steamy things got between the 2 of them from the get-go. Like there are a lot of hot scenes in this. Like I highly recommend that book just for that. But I am always going to be trash for these Beauty and the Beast retellings where the hero just feels unworthy of the heroine. And Calliope is just such a fun heroine. She's very fierce, very brave, but very quirky as well. And I just like loved reading about their love story and seeing them bond and fall for each other. It's beautiful. So the next slot on this list, no one is surprised that this has to go to 2 Cassie Mint novellas that I read in April. I cannot choose between Hacker. So these are both novellas in her Sweet Little Sinners series. So Hacker is about our heroine who is a hacker. She is also neurodivergent, at least from what I can tell from reading the novella. She seems to be neurodivergent. And then we have, I believe his name's Luca, our hero, who is a part of the mafia. And so the heroine discovers that the hero's cousin is planning on having him murdered. And so she warns him by hacking into like all of his phones and like setting off all of his alarms. And so while he's grateful that his life has been saved, he's also incredibly pissed off that somebody would hack into his things. And so he finds out who the hacker is and their relationship starts over the phone. There's a really hot phone sex scene in this. It's just absolutely everything. Absolutely obsessed with this one. And the other novella that I have to mention is Honey Trap. Again, part of the same series. This involves a heroine who is a honey trap and then our hero who is a private investigator. And this is just one of those fantastic friends to lovers romances that Cassie Mint is just a master at writing. So much pining, so much longing, so much angst. Basically because the hero doesn't believe that the heroine's feelings are genuine because she is a honey trap as her job. And so yeah, it's just so good. These 2 novellas are easily in the top 10 novellas that I've read from Cassie Mint. Yes, I did put 2 novellas in the same slot in this top 5 video, but I know it doesn't really matter. I know you guys don't really care all that much, but I care. So actually the next slot for number 3, I also put 2 books from the same series from the same author, and that is Tempt Me at Twilight and Married by Morning, both by Lisa Kleypas. So these are books 3 and 4 in her Hathaway series. I am just head over heels in love with the Hathaway siblings. If you don't know, this is a historical romance series that centers around 5 siblings. Their parents had passed away pretty recently and now they are all that each other has, you know, and I equally love the 4 books that I've read in this series. I mean, Mine Till Midnight is probably my favorite, but then in terms of like ranking the other 3 books, I can't rank them. Like I love them so much that I can't rank them. And this one is Poppy and Harry's story. And so this one involves Harry, who is a self-made man. He owns the hotel that the Hathaways have been staying at. This one ends up being a marriage of convenience. And then Married by Morning is a hate to love between Kat, who is the governess to the two younger Hathaway sisters, and then Leo, who is the one brother of the Hathaway series. And I was just so pumped going into Married by Morning because the really entertaining and tumultuous relationship between Kat and Leo was heavily featured in Tempe at Twilight and Seduce Me at Sunrise, I believe is when Kat's character comes into play. Can't recommend this series highly enough, especially if you are like a lot of us who are still emotionally hungover from Bridgerton season 2 on Netflix. I think that this series will give you what you need. And speaking of Bridgerton season 2, for my number 4 spot on this list, I have to talk about Dare to be a Duchess by Sapna Bog, or Sapna Bog. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing the author's name correctly. This is book 1 in a historical romance series. First of all, this cover is stunning. Isn't it beautiful? I am obsessed with this cover. So this is book 1 in the Elusive Lord series, and book 2, To Covet a Countess, is already out. I'm planning on reading that one very soon. But the reason why I said speaking of Bridgerton season 2, if you don't know this already from my mid-month wrap up, this book totally has Kate and Anthony vibes from the Bridgerton show, not the book, because as we all know, the book is very different from the show. But there are so many Anthony vibes between our hero and heroine, Lara and Tristan. It's kind of crazy, actually. So I'm just gonna kind of read you part of my Goodreads review because I just have bullet points of how it reminded me of the show. But we have a hate to love romance with great banter. We also have a half Indian heroine. So Lara was brought from India basically to stay with, I want to say, a friend of her family after I think both of her parents passed away. And so she has this man Robert as her guardian, and Robert is the uncle to Tristan, our hero, who is a duke. Also, we have Tristan. Like I said, he's a duke. He is obsessed with the heroine's scent, and if you remember from the Netflix show, Anthony is quite obsessed with Kate's scent, so I had to mention that in this review. Also, the hero and heroine love to ride and race horses together, lots of scorching sexual tension and chemistry, and this is a forbidden romance with lots of angst because in this story, like I said, with Lara being half Indian, especially Tristan's mother, the Dowager Duchess, would never accept Tristan marrying Lara, so there's just a lot of that going on. We also have the best friend's brother trope, which is fun, and this was just exquisite to me. Like, from page 1, I was really captivated by the writing. This is one of those books where as soon as I started it, I knew it was probably going to be a 5-star read just because of how much I was vibing with the writing. All right, and the last book that I have to talk about is another book that as soon as I started reading it, I knew it was going to be a 5-star, and I knew that it was probably going to be one of my favorite books of 2022, and that is Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reed. Now, I mentioned in my end of April wrap up that I did pick up this book kind of on a whim, but I had heard so many people raving and raving about this book and how it's one of their favorite sports romances, so I was definitely really intrigued. This has like a 4.4 average rating on Goodreads, so clearly a lot of people love this book. And I was really excited for the vibe because it's about Ilya and Shane, who are hockey players that are playing for rival teams. And so this is just such an epic and beautiful and sexy romance between the two of them because it takes place over, I want to say, about like 7 years. And so we see when they first meet each other when they're about 18 years old, when they're getting drafted to their respective teams, and then they just can't deny this attraction between the two of them. They start secretly hooking up, and this is definitely a forbidden romance because the hockey industry is not the most accepting when it comes to gay athletes, and also they play for rival teams, and so they don't think it would be a good career move by any means for them to be publicly together. And so yeah, we see over the span of 7 years how these two just fall deeply head over heels in love with each other. It's beautiful, it is heart-wrenching. My heart was aching so much for these two, and it's also an incredibly sexy book. I feel like Rachel Reed just like masterfully balanced all of these different elements into this just spectacular hockey romance. Like, I cannot recommend this book enough. I think it's hard for me to say, but honestly, I'm pretty sure this is my top favorite book of April, and don't be surprised if this ends up being one of my top favorite books of 2022. Like I said, it is just that phenomenal of a romance. Also, I'm so excited because Rachel Reed very recently came out with The Long Game, which is the sequel to this book, which is so exciting because I will throw out there that this book ends with what I would say is more of a happy for now, not a happily ever after by any means. And so I'm really excited to see Elia and Shane get their true happily ever after in that next book. So I'm definitely planning on reading that soon. All right, guys, that's going to be it for my top 5, more like top 7 reads of April. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to tell me about some of your favorite books that you read in April. And I would love it if you would leave a like and subscribe. And I thank you so much in advance if you do. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.